So back to this. Physically, we got things wrong with the brain. Let's go into it a little bit now, okay? You guys? All right. It usually takes something like toxic heavy metals, but not just toxic heavy metals in the brain. Not just metals in the brain that can cause problems. With psychosis, it takes also solvents, chemicals and solvents. What happens is a chemical interaction can happen inside the brain with toxic heavy metals, and a chemical reaction can happen inside the brain with lots of different things, but metals react to solvents and other chemicals and petrochemicals. And so what happens is when we get exposed to something, so say somebody has some metals inside their brain and they're already struggling, they already have problems, and then they get their carpets cleaned. And the cleaning service comes in and literally dump solvents inside their floors from the machines. Solvents that are sitting in the floor, in the carpet, underneath the floorboard, and those solvents are in the air. They're on your skin, you're breathing them in. They're the carpet cleaning chemicals that I've seen trigger people for years. And the carpet cleaning chemicals are solvents that when they get in your sinuses and find their way into the bloodstream to your brain, they can interact with the toxic heavy metals, causing a chemical reaction that can throw somebody from a very mild case of something into, boom, some kind of psychosis or really some type of neurosis that's out of control or seemingly out of control. It's one example right there on its own. Okay? Smoking. Chemicals in smoking. You guys? Anything. Any kind of smoke. Chemicals in any kind of smoke. The fake logs that everybody burns at this time of year. The fake logs that are completely soaked and saturated with chemicals. Like fragrances and petrochemicals and solvents. Right there. Anything that someone is smoking on top of that, along with breathing in smoke that's burning in a fire pit. A lot of people burn treated wood in fire pits, and the treated wood has solvents on it. It's saturated in solvents. You ever see a piece of treated wood? A piece of treated wood actually has green, you know, the green color that's on the wood. You get a 2x4, 2x6, right? Whatever it is that you're getting. Treated wood. A lot of people take treated wood and they burn it in their backyard. They burn it in their fire pits. They burn it in posh areas that are really expensive to live, where rich people live, and they burn it where people that don't have resources and don't have a lot of money live. They burn it there too. They burn it everywhere. And that's a massive trigger for a lot of people, where you breathe in that smoke. Could be anything, something you're smoking, something you're breathing in. Big trigger for all kinds of levels of anxiety and depression, but to up it into psychosis eventually. Please talk about the laundry scents. They are out of control. I broke the news to the world about the fragrances and the laundry detergents and the fabric softeners and the plugins and all the different fragrances and the colognes and perfumes, and everybody punished me greatly. I mean, seriously. Like, they were trying to cancel me a while back. I mean, it's just like years ago, they were doing everything they could on social to cancel me. Because people love their scented candles, they love their fake logs, they love their fabric softener sheets, and it'd be crazy. Because you'd see on social media all these people, right? They would be like, you know, yo, I'm on social, I'm eating better, I'm into natural health, I'm into all this great stuff, let me burn my scented candles, I'm having my friends over, we're going to have a great dinner. They got the fake logs burning, they're loaded with perfume, which is all that toxic metal and everything else, and then they're burning scented candles, and then they got the worst conventional detergents, petrochemicals, and solvents all in it, and they're just one big stink bomb. Getting into sinuses, getting into the bloodstream. Yeah. And that stuff just, boom, it just sits inside our liver and it torments us too, which could be a trigger as well. So I'm going into, like, say you're struggling and you're suffering in some way. depression, anxiety, depersonalization, deep sadness you can't explain, ups and downs, anger and frustration, sadness, said it already. And then maybe even something more serious, like you got some manic stuff going on, some mania, you got some serious OCD, got some serious brain fog, got the bipolar diagnosis or something that someone might have given you, and you're doing all that, and then it can get triggered. You're already struggling, you already have something going on inside the brain itself, and I'm going to go into something what happens when these two start to meld together. Right here, the ghost, your soul, your spirit, whatever you want to call it, and your physical brain. And then you got all these things going on, and then boom, you get triggered by solvents and petrochemicals and laundry detergents and plug-ins and scented candles and and colognes and perfumes, and it gets into the bloodstream fast because these are solvents. They go through the brain, they go through the body into the organs, and then they go and they touch sensitive brain tissue. That's what they do. They touch sensitive brain tissue. Okay? So you got your brain, right? And in your brain is all this sensitive tissue when you're sick and you don't feel good. When you're sick and you don't feel good, okay? You got all this sensitive tissue. Gets triggered really easy. It does. So much so that you can get triggered emotionally really easy too, because physically you're struggling inside because you got physical stuff happening. You got petrochemicals, you got all the different fragrances in here, you got the MSG in here, you got a buildup of the toxic salts. If I hear one more time somebody in health try to recycle the same old BS and pretend it's new, quality salts. You need plenty of fats, plenty of quality salts. Stay away from this, stay away from that, right? The good fish oil, do the krill oil, don't do the fish oil. If I hear that one more time, that same old spiel out there, the same old shtick, right? When people don't even realize why people are sick or what's going on in there. The reason why you'll see medical medium doesn't obsess about salt. Make sure you have all the salt in your water. Make sure you put salt in your water. Make sure you put salt on your food. Good salts are good. They're supportive for this. They're supportive of that. The reason why you don't hear that is the Spirit of Compassion says too much salt builds up in the brain and it crystallizes. It crystallizes inside the brain because it's got nowhere to go. Because you're not peeing it out in time. More salt is coming in than going out. More salt is coming in than going out. You can still get a blood test and be low on sodium in your bloodstream and have salt deposits inside the brain that are crystallized and no longer are they liquefying. So people have MSG deposits, they have salt deposits, they have calcium deposits from being so acidic all the time. Then they have toxic heavy metals, then they have all the fragrances and chemicals. They got all of that inside their brain, and it's making them feel like they're crazy when they're not. It's making them feel like they're losing their mind when they're not. They're struggling physically. It's not their fault. They didn't cause it. They didn't create it. And then they get triggered. Triggered. Also do some healing. All right. The problem is you're struggling emotionally, because you're struggling physically. Your soul is being challenged in a brain that's being challenged. You're being challenged visually in your brain. You're being challenged emotionally in your brain through your soul, because that's being challenged, and you're struggling. You're struggling. And it becomes a vicious cycle, and a vicious circle is what it becomes, and it's hard to break out of it, and it just seems to just get tougher and tougher and tougher and tougher. And the circle and the cycle doesn't get broken easy. It's back to suffering and struggling and feeling a little better, back to it again, and no one realizes we got to get the brain, the physical brain, in a better place. Yes, we need to take care of our soul, our spirit, what people call our spirit. We need to take care of it. We do. And we need to reach out for help, and we need people helping us And we need to try to understand ourselves, but we have to not beat ourselves up. I see it out there all the time when people are struggling. It's important to know it's not your fault that your brain has all this stuff I just talked about in it. And it's not your fault that we're also up against so much here on planet Earth where our soul gets knocked out of us. But when our soul is in our brain and they're both living there and our brain is struggling, we end up getting like OCD more and allergic more and hypersensitive more, and we end up struggling more because we don't understand why aren't we better? Yeah. There's so much information here. Check out Brain Saver, you guys. Just making the announcements one more time real quick.